Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your girl Erica, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Happy Sunday. I hope all is well, and I hope you're having an amazing day. I am here to do my weekly recap of Love and Marriage Huntsville. Now, last night's episode, it was pretty good. It was okay. I don't want to say it was uneventful because that's not the truth. But it just wasn't the most exciting episode, I would say. But let's get into it nonetheless. So this is, of course, season 10, episode 12, and it was called Destiny's Men-Ifesto, not Manifesto, Men-Ifesto. And as you can see, guys, I have taken copious notes, so I will be going back and referring to my notes. But like I said, I can pretty much go off of what happened, but I will have to refer back just a little bit because I don't want to leave anything out in case you haven't seen the episode and you're not really interested in watching it. So let me try to hook you up and give you all the details. So let's get into it. The first episode, the first scene, the opening scene was with Martell, Destiny, and Chris. And it appears as though Martell wants to sell a property. He kind of mentioned that there was a property that he and Mel owned. It went bankrupt, and now he's sort of looking into selling this other property. Destiny was familiar with the property. Chris was not familiar with it so much, but they are going to be co-listed on the property. Chris really doesn't understand how and why Destiny is actually a part of, them selling the actual property. But, he was like, hey, Chris is like, look, I'm going to do my part and I know what to do. So whatever she does or doesn't do, hey, I'm here for the job. So they start talking about game night. And Chris said that, Nell felt ganged up on. He said that Nell felt like she didn't understand, and maybe Chris didn't understand either, why the conversation between Nell and Tisha turned into all of the ladies being part of it. So Destiny cleared it up. Destiny said, well, I was a part of the conversation simply because I was the one who told Tisha what Nell said. And I wanted to make sure that everything was clear from that aspect. And so, Chris just said, well, it seems like, y'all were kind of like starting with her, and Destiny was like, no, that's not actually what it was. But, she tried to clear it up as much as she could. So, of course, they go on. I think Martell asked, how did she enjoy game night, especially with Lance being there, Lance bringing a date. And then, of course, she showed up with Will, which was a little surprising to the group. Well, Destiny said, of course, her and Lance are cool. There's nothing going on between them. They're good. She said Will is a nice guy. Martell sort of gave Destiny the heads up that Will really wants to sleep with Destiny. He wants to hit it and quit it. And maybe if it's good enough, or if he feels like she's good enough, then maybe he will stick around. So Martell was sort of being a brother to her in that way to give her a heads up. Destiny said, basically, if you won't commit, then you can't hit. And so, Chris, they were just all kind of like joking around about that. And so that was pretty much the end of that scene. So we move on to Nell and Chris. They're at their home. Nell was sort of decorating and sort of, arranging her flowers within her foyer. And so Chris, they were talking about Nell actually wanting to open a boutique. Nell has always been interested in opening a boutique, a clothing boutique. However, she just doesn't have the space. So Chris is in the process as a real estate agent trying to nail down like a brick and mortar somewhere where she can really put her new boutique. I think it was called, I really don't have the name, guys. I think it was like Prim and Proper or something like that, or Prissy or something like that. But anyway, it's supposed to be a clothing boutique. I think she said it was kind of named after her grandmother, or it had something to do with her grandmother. And so they were talking about that. Of course, Nell says she wants to get moving with that. Lance comes over. They just sort of handle some family business. Lance was saying that Chris Jr. or little Chris, I don't know if he's a junior or not, but that he's back working for Lance. Lance says that Chris wants to make more money. However, Lance was telling Chris that he's not really qualified. He doesn't actually have the qualifications to make more money, so he can't just sort of upgrade him or pay him more or promote him without the proper qualifications. So Chris Fletcher, well, Big Chris was saying that they need to sort of get together and discuss some things, and perhaps they should have a family dinner. Nell was saying she's really not interested in a family dinner because it seems like when they have these get-togethers, things sort of go left or they shift left, and she really doesn't want to do that. So Lance said he thought it was a good idea. Chris was kind of like sort of seconding that, yeah, they should have the dinner. So Chris said, well, do you want me to invite Dr. Francis? Nell said no. Of course, that proves that Nell really does not believe in therapy. She doesn't want to be called out. She doesn't want to change. She doesn't want to get better. We know that Dr. Francis talked to their family once before. Nell got angry. She got upset. She sort of just kind of shut down and didn't want to deal with anything. So I can see where Nell is definitely, like I said, just that type of lady who is like, no, that ain't my thing. So that was the end of that. So Destiny and Will go on a cute little date, like a skate date. They were out skating. It wasn't at a skating rink or roller rink or anything like that. They were sort of skating around. I don't know if it was just like a little area where you could skate. Destiny didn't seem like she could skate too well. Will was trying to help her along. So they sit down and talk. So, they say that Will said that he enjoyed going out with her, at the little Fletchtivities. Destiny did bring up the fact that, well, let me say this first. Destiny asked him how he felt about relationships and marriage. Will said that he is a father of 4. He has 4 children. The youngest is 6 years old. He said that he's really not interested in getting married. She did ask him, does he want to get married? Does he believe in marriage? He did say he doesn't really. He just said he never answered the question. Will just really said that he hasn't seen too much or positivity coming out of a marriage, or perhaps the marriages that he's seen, they have not lasted. So Destiny was sort of taking mental note, and she was saying, you have 4 different, all of your children by different women. Like, how did that come about? And basically, Chris is, I think I said it about 2 or 3 videos ago when we first started this actual season, Chris is an F-boy. Chris is definitely not a person who wants to actually kind of settle down or anything. He is one of those guys like, hey, if we have a physical connection and we click that way, cool. If I call you, cool. If I don't be mad about it. And that's what kind of guy Will is. So like I said, the date was actually cute because Will had like a little he actually had like a little picnic basket, and he had things in the basket where was sort of like questions that she could ask or things that were important to him. Like he said, he loves basketball and stuff like that. But I think just the other personal conversations sort of overrode the stuff that he had perhaps in the picnic box, because Destiny wanted to see where he was. Also, Destiny did, tell Will that she was told that he just wanted to hit and, move on. And he kind of said, he never answered that. He was like, that's not how it was actually said. But I think Destiny kind of felt like, Destiny knew that Martell was not lying to her. So I think Will was kind of caught, in that, and there was like kind of like no escape. But they did agree perhaps to, maybe hang out again. And so that was the end of them. I don't think that they're going to make it. And I will say a little bit more about Destiny later about that. So, Ken, Will, and Martell meet up. They were at the gym. They were messing around playing basketball. Will actually came out to Martell, and he told Martell what Destiny said. He said, hey, why did you rat me out? Why did you say anything? And Martell was honest. Martell said, Destiny is my homegirl. We went to high school together. We're really close. And, that's what it is. So Will kind of said, hey, Destiny is a beautiful woman. I think she's gorgeous. She would definitely look good on my arm. But as far as anything like a commitment or anything serious, I just can't see that right now. So they were kind of talking about that. And then, of course, it comes up that, Will, they were talking about Destiny sort of talking to the guys in the group. And that's another thing in Destiny and Will's date. Will asked Destiny about Lance, and she said there's nothing there. There's nothing there with Lance. There's nothing there with Twan. She kind of, she was dating Lance at one time. Nothing came out of that. She also went out with Twan, which was just sort of like a business meeting. Nothing came out of that. They're all just friends. It's cool. Lance told the guys, he told Martell and Ken that Destiny sort of got caught up in her lie with that because she didn't really tell them the truth about what was going on. Well, I think Will wanted Destiny to actually be caught up in a lie because Will know that he actually said that he really wanted to get Destiny in the bed. And so to recover from that, or to make it seem as though, to make it even, so to speak, he tried to say that Destiny lied about Lance and Twan. And Destiny absolutely positively did not lie about Lance and Twan, because she has said it. I was attracted to Lance. Nothing ever happened between us. I thought Twan was cute. I thought we should go out, but nothing happened between us. No lies told. So, Will, we just see what Will is all about. Will is just about talking to different women, and I don't think Destiny will be the appropriate person for him, because I can see them definitely, personality-wise, I can see them clashing, because Destiny is going to push him, and she is going to say things that Will won't like. And so Will just keep dating, the little, probably the younger girls, or keep dating the women who are just so taken by the fact that you're maybe a successful man and you have this great body, and keep dating those kind of women, because that's what's going to work for you. So Nell and Chris, again, they're at home. Nell, the family, like I said, they're coming over. Again, we saw when we first were introduced to the Fletchers, they had like a family dinner, and they're doing it again. This time Nell had it catered. She did not cook. However, I think her niece was there. So it was Lance, Chris, their son Chris, their daughter, and the niece. The niece actually told, and the lady Lance is dating, Kiera, was there. Kiera was introduced to us during Fletchtivities. Lance brought her there, and now she's there at the family dinner. The niece told Kiera that Nell is a great cook, and Nell said, yeah, you'll have to come back when I cook, because I can burn or whatever. And so, of course, Kiera wants to be part of this family. She even asked Nell, could she call her mom? And Nell was like, no, Miss Nell is good enough. So Kiera went on to say that Destiny was giving her strange looks at the actual game night, and she was just wondering what was going on with that, because she's no longer with Lance. Well, Nell spills all the beans, all the tea, whatever you want to say. She spilled it all and told Kiera, well, Lance came over to the house one night. He said he was going to get pizza. Next thing I know, Destiny is outside of our home, and he's talking to her, and they're having a conversation. Well, Kiera didn't like that. She was like, basically like, I'm the new sheriff in town. Destiny should be a has-been or a thing of the past. And so, Kiera tried to like press up on it, and she was like, she was going to ask Lance about it. So they all sit down to dinner, and it also comes out that, it was said something about Chris Jr. or little Chris actually slept in his car. And it was kind of like a random conversation, but it didn't come up until further down in the dinner. So as time went on, the conversation, Kiera just put it all out on the table. Kiera said that hey, your mom was telling me that you had a conversation with Destiny. What is it all about? Lance was kind of taken aback, but, Lance told her the truth. He said, look, partly the truth. Lance told her that, yeah, he did not call her over. He said she was outside. Her reason for being outside was that she was just driving around because she wanted her son to go to sleep. That sounds very far-fetched, especially with her son being the age he is. He's not a little baby. But, I just thought to myself, Destiny's driving around, and she's driving around in the Fletcher's neighborhood. No, Destiny's lying. Maybe this is where I thought maybe Lance was lying. I think Lance probably told Destiny to come over to the house or meet him there so that they could have a conversation or some type of exchange where they talked. And he said, hey, I'm going to be at my mom's or my parents' house. Drop by for a second. Maybe you can just, we can sit outside and talk. I think that's what happened. Anyway, he said they cleared things up. They cleared the air. They called a truce. They are now friends again. And he even told Kiera, like, oh, so what's her name? Nell was like, just kind of like egging it on, like, yeah, because, Destiny and I were friends and now we're no longer friends because of this. And, but you guys were close or whatever the case may be. And guess what, guys? I didn't even mention this, but Twan was even at the dinner. So, of course, if you go back to my videos, maybe 2 videos back, I think so that was probably, we're on episode 12, so that was episode 10. I think I told you they were going to try to paint this picture of Destiny as if she was kind of like just going through all the men in the group and, kind of like, I don't want to say like a loose woman, but that's how they're trying to paint this picture of her. And now it's happening. So, of course, Destiny is the topic of conversation at the dinner table. So Twan was like, well, she's an attractive woman, but we're just friends. I don't want anything with her. I'm doing my thing or whatever the case may be. Well, Lance says that he told Kiera, look, there's definitely an attraction with Destiny. He said, now I'm gonna be honest with you. He said, there's nothing serious with us. We're not in a committed relationship. I'm not seeing anybody else, but he hasn't fully chosen Kiera to be his girl yet, so to speak, or his lady. They're just seeing each other. And I think word to the wise, Kiera, sis, pump your brakes. Like, I could see Lance and Destiny at some point maybe even coming back together and talking. I don't know how far, if they will start dating again, but I can see them hanging out again. I really genuinely think that there is something between them. Lance is very attracted to Destiny and Destiny is very attracted to Lance. And I think maybe if they start talking again, it will be a secret and everyone won't even know. So Kiera, sis, pump your brakes. You're trying to, I know Lance is a very attractive guy. You probably want something serious with him, but I think you're coming on a little too strong, showing how much you really want to be with him, trying to insert yourself into this family. Those type of things happen naturally, sis. Don't do that. You kind of look kind of crazy, coming on kind of strong. You almost kind of look like you could be kind of like one of them chicks that will kind of go off, and it could be kind of like Lance's worst nightmare. So I think if Lance needs to slow his roll with Kiera, if he's not really serious about it, then I think Lance needs to put on the brakes right now, because I think Kiera is like ready to go full throttle, all in. This is my man, my man, my man. She's definitely there, and Lance is not there. And I think she's going to get her feelings hurt. And like I said, this could definitely go left. So the conversation sort of shifts. Chris goes back to what Chris Jr. or Little Chris said earlier about him sleeping in his car. I think he moved out. He's been staying there for a while, but then he moved out or whatever. So he's kind of like in and out of the house or back and forth. Maybe I think he could have potentially moved out altogether by now. So, Chris said, hey, I want to talk to you about why you were sleeping in the car. What's up? What's going on? You didn't call me. And so, little Chris said, hey, I didn't want to call you. I was sleeping in my car for a couple of days. I needed to figure some things out. And in order for me to figure it out as a man, I needed to just basically pull myself up by the bootstraps and just deal with it. And so, I thought that was kind of, I could see where he was coming from. As an adult, your parents want you to grow up, and they tell you, hey, you got to make these decisions. Sometimes you may have to struggle through some things, but just try to figure it out. And so I think that's what little Chris was trying to do. And then he also made a point in saying that, hey, I didn't want to say anything either, because you guys, I love you guys. You always kind of like help out, and you're always there for us, but you kind of remind us and throw it in our faces like when we do come to you and ask for anything or we need your help. So Chris Big Chris was kind of saying, yeah, you guys aren't just spoiled, you're entitled, and we've been doing this for too long. And Nell, I think, is just kind of upset that, like, she was like, well, Chris is my baby and he shouldn't have been sleeping in his car. And I think, you know, Big Chris was kind of saying, well, yeah, they do have to kind of back up a little bit. So Nell and Chris were kind of going at it a little bit. You could tell there was kind of like a power struggle between them as to who was right about their feelings concerning their youngest son, Chris. Lance kind of jumped in and kind of just defended Big Chris and saying he really didn't say anything wrong. Nell got upset and Nell started saying, you know, you guys, I want to do things for myself and you guys are just taking away from me, and I have plans, we have plans, and if we're always trying to help you, you know, I can't get what I need to get done. Okay, so Nell again was riled up, and I was like, here we go. And the only thing I kept thinking during that time is Nell needs to see Dr. Francis, because Nell flies off the handle for the smallest thing, which means, you know, she's just not in control of her emotions. She goes there in like the drop of a hat, like just the drop of a dime, like anything just sets Nell off and she's out the gate. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, you're not even making sense. You need to calm down. And I think she's always ran her household like that. Nell sort of, you can tell, like, when Nell gets in that place and she starts getting angry and she's yelling and bamming on things, you know, everyone sort of gets quiet and they shut down, but nothing is ever resolved. That is a very toxic way to communicate with your family. I'm not saying that sometimes you don't get angry and that you may need a minute, but if you're doing that every single time and your children, it makes your children shut down. It makes your husband not say anything to you. And I've said this in my videos before. Chris doesn't say anything to Nell because he's been such a dog in their relationship that he just lets her have her way now, instead of correcting her sometimes or telling her maybe you need to handle it a little differently. He lets her have her way. He backs off and he lets her basically be a Rottweiler and just go off on everybody. So I didn't really care for that, because also, you know, Kiera was there. Now, Kiera has also inserted herself in trying to be in his family. But again, Nell kind of flew off the handle in front of a guest. And I didn't even think that was... It wasn't the most appropriate thing. You know, I don't think she did it on purpose, but it just wasn't the most appropriate thing. So then, let me go back. I think I told you she said that she has things that she wants to do. But anyway, like I said, I just didn't want to leave anything out because we were kind of like at the end. But Nell was like bamming on the table and then she walked out. That was pretty much like the gist of the conversation, because I think that when Nell got so angry that it was almost like everything just came to a halt. And I think even Lance was kind of like, oh, you know, well, you know, Kiera kind of came at a bad time or whatever. I don't know if she would want to come back or whatever the case may be, just kind of like saying it sarcastically. Nell walked out, guys. That was really the end of the episode. Like I said, I was looking down because I wanted to, you know, make sure that I gave you everything. But in actuality, I did. That was all that there was to it. Please like and subscribe to this video. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel. I hope I did my due diligence in telling you exactly what went down. That's exactly how it happened. It wasn't too much going on, but like I said, Nell needs counseling. I know at one point Nell said that she is like a mentor or a coach to women. There's no possible way that Nell can be coaching or being a life coach or mentor to any woman with that kind of emotional baggage, that kind of emotional trauma, that kind of turmoil inside of her. Nell needs help. And that's all I can say. She needs help. I'm not criticizing anyone for getting angry or being upset. We all, as humans, we all get upset. But when you try to bogart and force people to shut up, shut down, and just listen to you and instill fear, or sort of, like I said, they have to sort of, it sucks the air out of the room, there's a problem. So that was the end of the episode, guys. Let me know what you think. How do you think this season is, or this particular half of the season is going thus far? Are you enjoying it? Are you feeling like, you know, Letitia and Marceau, as well as Kimmy and Maurice, are missing from the actual episodes? Are you enjoying them the way they are? Let me know and tell me what you think. I would love to receive a comment from you or some sort of reply. Just let me know what you're thinking. I know that's not everyone's thing, so I'm certainly not going to beg you to do it, but if you want to leave me a comment, I would greatly appreciate it, and I will certainly respond. So have a good day, guys. I am going to be reviewing Married to Medicine. If you're interested in watching that, Married to Medicine comes on Sunday nights at 9 p.m. on Bravo. That was just a little plug, but not that I'm getting paid for it or anything, but I'm just saying they're going to be on, so I will probably review the actual episode tomorrow. So hang in there with me, guys. And like I said, let me know what you think. And like I said, I will try to have that video up for you tomorrow. And until then, have a wonderful day. Love you guys. Hugs to you all. Bye.